Hey everyone, I'm back, and today we're going to be talking about The Godfather Part 2. And this movie is directed by Francis Ford Coppola and has all the same cast as the first movie, for the most part. And it's a continuation of the first movie, and it's also a prequel to the first movie with Vito Corleone, like his life and how all of this got started, starting from 1901 all the way up to like the early 1920s, I think. And in those flashback scenes, Vito Corleone is played by Robert De Niro. And overall, I really enjoyed this movie. I don't think it's nearly as good as Godfather Part 1. And I do have some issues with it, but I do think this is a really good movie. And the things I like about this movie are the performances. I think they're all great. The music works really well in this movie. I think the characters are very well written, or at least the ones that come back from the first movie. I think they're great. And Vito Corleone, he's my favorite character in this entire movie. And I think I said that about the first movie. I can't remember, but he's definitely a huge standout. And I really loved every scene that he was in, and whenever it was a flashback with Vito being played by Robert De Niro, as I said. For me personally, that was the best part of the movie, and that takes up about a third of this movie. And personally, I kind of wish that the entire movie was a prequel, because there was just so much going on that I really loved, and I don't know, I just really wish that it was that, because that's what I got the most out of this movie. I think the movie looks great. It has the look of the first Godfather movie, which I really liked. And the story itself, when it's not a prequel, I thought it was serviceable. I wasn't crazy about it. I didn't think it was amazing. I thought it worked just fine. And now I'm going to have to kind of talk about my issues with this movie. And that is the runtime. This movie is 3 hours and 20 minutes long. That is about 20 minutes longer than the first Godfather, along with the third one. I think 1 and 3 are the same in terms of runtime. Let me just check. I just checked, and Godfather 1 and 3 are just under 3 hours, whereas this one is just under 3.5 hours long. And I like how this movie is really trying to make everything as fleshed out as possible and really give you a sense of everything that's going on. And it almost feels like there's no deleted scenes for this movie. And I liked that it was really trying. However, if you are going to make a really long movie, it doesn't always pay off. And for me personally, I felt this movie dragged on for quite a bit, and there's about an hour of this movie that I just thought was really boring, and I just wasn't into it at all. And that's my biggest criticism with this movie, is that in that hour that I was bored, it was mostly because what was going on, I just didn't find all that interesting. And while I do like the characters that come back, the characters that are new, I didn't really like all that much, and I felt as though there were too many characters in this movie. And you could say that there were a lot of characters in the first movie, and there are. There are a lot of characters in that first movie. I will agree with you that both the first one and this one have a lot of characters. However, the difference between the first movie and this movie, for me personally, is that the characters that are new in this film aren't very interesting to me. Like, I don't think it's the performances at all. I think the acting is all great. It's just the characters I just don't find very interesting. The new ones, at least. And I also want to make this clear. I'm talking about when this movie is being a sequel and not a prequel. Because in the flashback scenes with Robert De Niro, everything going on in there is like perfect, and if that was the entire movie for me, this movie would have been a 10 out of 10. But unfortunately, it's mixed in with a film that is kind of a mess. And I wasn't a huge fan of how this movie ended. I just didn't feel it, and once we got to the 3 hour point in this movie, that's when I kind of checked out. And I was just like, I've had enough. Just end the movie already. Like, I don't care. I'll say this about the movie. There are a couple twists in this film, and I think that they were pulled off very, very well. And they're not like M. Night Shyamalan twists where they can either like make or break the movie and it makes you think about the entire movie differently. It's like, oh, I wasn't expecting that. And I think it worked very well. And there were moments where it was pretty funny. And I really love Fredo as a character. I think he's hilarious. And without spoiling anything, I love where his character goes in this. And I also really enjoyed what Kate does in this movie. She doesn't have a lot of screen time. But when she's on screen, I think she works really well in the movie. And as much as I didn't really care for the ending and I felt as though it was dragged on for way too long, there are some really great and powerful scenes in this movie at the same time. But my biggest criticism with this movie, like I said, about an hour of this movie was really boring and the story overall just wasn't all that interesting for me. Well, when it was being a sequel and not a prequel. And the prequel stuff is the best stuff in the movie for me, but the rest of it kind of makes me hesitant to rewatch this movie, honestly. Mainly because it's so long, and I was just checking my watch to see what time it was, and I just wanted it to be over. It was like, come on, let's go. Let's wrap this up now. And I just wished it was more engaging. It had better characters for me that stood out better, and when it comes to scenes that are really memorable, there aren't really a whole lot of really memorable scenes to me, or at least ones that are sticking out in my head right now. Like, compared to the first movie, I'm trying not to compare this movie to the first film too much, but it's kind of difficult not to for me. But going back, I think of the first movie, and I can pretty much remember almost every scene in that movie because it impacts me so much. I care about what's going on, the characters, and Michael Corleone's arc of the film, and like him changing over the course of the movie, and the 3 hour runtime is justified, and there are a ton of characters, but each character has a purpose in the film. And I'm not saying every character in this movie is purposeless. I'm just saying that in the first movie, they have much more purpose to me, and they affect the story better, and they're much more memorable for me, and that's probably why the first movie sticks with me much more than this one does. So in the end, The Godfather Part 2, I like it by the end of the day. I have my own criticisms with it, and I'm doing the best I can to talk about my issues with this movie and to try to be as reasonable and understanding as much as possible, because this is my mom's favorite movie ever. So I just want to be clear about where I stand. And there are things that I love about the movie. There are things I really like, and there's some things I don't like. And overall, I do like this movie more than I don't. And I would definitely recommend that you check this movie out. It's a good follow-up to the first movie. I love the prequel side of this movie. The sequel side, it's kind of hit or miss for me, but it's still a good movie by the end of the day. And with all that being said, I'm going to give The Godfather Part 2 a 7 out of 10. I'm sorry, everybody. I tried really hard to love this movie as much as the first. It's just that my own personal investment was it just didn't connect with me as much as the first one, and like a lot of other really great movies that I love. Thank you for watching my videos as always. If you enjoyed this review, be sure to leave a like and comment down below what you thought of The Godfather Part 2 down below. And my social media links, they will all be in the description down below, so follow me there. And last but not least, subscribe to be a part of Foley Nation, and I'll see you when I get my next review up, and that is going to be for Christopher Nolan's Interstellar. So look forward to that, but until I get that up, thank you for watching and have a great day.